shapes. The mare and the foal are both facing us. So I'll try and draw them. I've got to get my thing to zoom. Is that better? Okay. So yeah, I'm drawing a mare and foal. So I'm going to do the rough proportions of the head. So they've sort of got a slightly oval shaped head. Like, I can change things as I go, as I'll alter her proportions as I go. Her shoulders, so her head and her shoulders are about the same length. So I'm just going to rough those in, get the shapes of her looking straight at us. I'll make the head a little bit narrower, I think, in just a minute. So her head, her chest, and her legs actually disappear into the grass, but you can see about the same length of her legs going down and into the grass. So pop those in there like that. Now her head, she's got her eyes. I can see that more of this side of her face, so she's sort of looking a little bit to the left. So I'm just got to narrow off this bit. I've got my eraser on the end of my pencil. I'm just going to take those edges. I've made her face too thick. So I'm going to narrow in. Horses can be quite complex to draw. They're one of my favourite subjects. I do really enjoy drawing them because I'm lucky enough that I live on a farm and have grown up with horses and spent 30 odd years riding them, training them, and all kinds of fun. Still got them. I don't ride anymore, but my husband does. So I'm just going to pop. She's got a white blaze. So she's a lovely little, looks like a little sort of pony of some kind. She's got lovely little markings. So I'll do a little mane there. Her ears, she's got her ears pricked. She's looking at us and she's happy. When the ears are pricked, they're happy. Her little forelock goes over that. That's called her forelock, that bit of mane between her ears. Like her fringe, or her bangs, as you say in America. So, and she's also got her very fat belly, because she's got her little foal next to her. But she's got a big fat belly. That'll help to give her some proportions. And her hips, you can just see her hips off the back there like that. So I pop those on. Her little chest. Okay, I can see things I need to adjust already. I've got to adjust her shoulders. Her knees come in a little bit, like that. All right, so there's that. You can just see her back legs coming around here like that, and her hock. That's her back knee joint, you can see there. And that leg sort of disappears off behind. I'm just going to erase that line a little bit and make it a bit narrower, I think. Not have her quite so big in the belly. Bring her belly in a fraction on both sides. Like that. All right, now we can draw the foal. So, little foal comes up to about here. She's such a little cutie. And foals have real baby faces. When they're little tiny babies, they have really cute little faces. So she's a little sort of a loose ovally shape. Come down there like that. Pop her little legs in like that. And she's got little spindly legs. Very little spindly legs. And her knees are about the same height as her mum's. So I'll pop her little legs on there. You can see her little belly. And her little back. So there. And I'll draw her little leg beside her there. And her little hock is about the same height back to front. And her little ears, she's got cute little turned in ears. So I'll do her cute little turned in ears like that. And in the photo, they don't have the bottoms of their legs, but I'm going to draw them in because I don't want to do the grass. I don't think I'm not going to do their legs buried in grass. So I'll just use my memory here to draw the little legs on these guys. So they've got their little fetlocks there, and then their hooves like that on the front. Draw a little hooves like that. I might actually, you can't see that foot, that back leg, but you can see that one a little bit. All right, and then the little bubba, she's got very spindly legs. And I've got to make her legs a fraction longer. I think. She's got very spindly long legs. Like that. Big knobby knees. Get her. I'll give them little white legs too. Oops. She's got big knobbly knees on the back. Like that. She's very cute. They are very cute. And then that leg there. So I'll do her little feet like that. Like that. There we go. Okay. I'll do some grass, or I'll do that in a minute. So I'll give her little eyes. They've actually got bigger eyes in comparison. Their little faces grow. Give her a little blaze. She's got a little standy uppy mane, and I'll give her a little tail. Little tail going like swooshy at the side, like that. There we go. So we have our mare and foal pretty much drawn in. So go draw Mum's eyelashes. All right. And I'll draw her tail off to the side like that. She doesn't actually have her tail in the picture, but I'm going to pop it in there. Right, so we are going to start with some colour. So I'm going to grab my Senneliers and my Schminkies. They're my favourite watercolours to use. I've put my brush down, of course, so I'll have to find that. There it is. Okay, got that. And now I'm going to go in with some burnt sienna, or transparent sienna actually. I'll go transparent sienna on my palette, top right hand side. And that'll be most of the colour that I use on these. But I will add darker tones. I'll leave the white of the paper for the white of the markings on the horse. And so this is, the original base layer, initial base layer, I should say. And then I will, I can actually see her cheek comes down there. She does have a little bit of brown in her nostrils, so I'll just pop that in. Alrighty. I can actually get that up to her nose there, and I'll run that in and around her shoulder. Come around the edge of her face, which I had narrowed off, which is good because I had made it a little bit too thick around the middle. So drag that down and around her chest. So I've used a wet brush into quite a diluted mix of transparent sienna. It's just pure transparent sienna, very watered down. And I'll take that right down her legs. Both her front legs. And I might have to mix up some more of this transparent sienna. The foal's the same colour, just a little bit paler. So the mum I'll do darker layers, and the baby I won't have to do so many layers because she's actually, it's like a foal coat. The foal coat, they're a slightly different colour when they're born to when they're at adult, and their coats, like our foals that we've had here, I had a black horse, or a grey horse, she was born black, and she went grey as she got older. So she went from a dark black foal to a beautiful steel grey looking horse. She was magnificent. So this horse, I think, is going to be, they call them a bay, which is a brown with black legs and black ears and black mane and tail. But I'm just starting with the golden browny colour first. So I'll do the baby. So she'll just be like maybe one layer, I think, of colour. And the mum will be a bit darker. Doesn't matter that I've got that paint onto the mum as well, because basically at the moment they're the same colour anyway. Okay, so I fill all the bubba in. She's got the same markings as her mum on her little face. Take that all the way around there. Go around her little chest. Like that. There we go. Alright. Take that onto her little bot and onto her little back legs. Like that. Down onto that leg. Do a little tail fluff. There we go. Right, now, next layer. So, I'm going to go transparent sienna again. And I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber. Just to brown that off. To make it a bit browner. And now, I'm going to go back into the mum. Get that a bit more water into that. And start to darken up this dark side of the mum that's in shadow. Like that. And she's darker down this part of her shoulder. I'll leave a little gap. Like that. Come down to her chest. Go closer to her mouth there. Down to her chest. Under there's darker, because that's all in shadow. Like that. I'll add a bit of shadow there, going down onto her tummy on that right hand side. Alright, I just itched my face, sorry about that if you heard that on the microphone. And her legs are darker, so I'll use this darker burnt umber and transparent sienna on her tummy. Bit of burnt umber, bit of transparent sienna. It's still quite wet, and I can just drop that in actually and let that flow around in that really wet bit, just there. Take that right down her legs, because her legs are darker. Alright. Darken up in her ears. Both her ears. Like that. She's darker up here as well. And darker in there. So I'll add some darker shadows in a little bit. Just going to dilute that down a little bit now and drag it around the other side of her face. So add a little bit more water. Drag that same colour so it doesn't look like a shock of lines. I want them to blend a little bit. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to go some brown now, just some more burnt umber. So adding a bit more burnt umber to the transparent sienna. I'm going to go into her ears. So while it's still wet, the paper's still wet, where I've added, I'll do a little forelocks that are blowing in the wind there. It sort of comes down there as well. And her mane's over the back. So I'll do a little bit of mane popping out the side there. I can go darker around her eyes. And coming down onto her face. There. Like that. Alright, dark into her nostrils. Like that. I'll give her a dark tail, so I can go over that. That's just burnt umber. and I'll leave it. So this is dry brush, so it's not a lot of water, and you can see how that's left it quite loose at the ends on the tail, the little gaps and things. I quite like that. So now I'm going to get some more of that burnt sienna, less water, more pigment, and pop that around the mum's belly. You can see that paper's still quite wet there, so I'm going to work on the mum first, get her just about where I want her. We're just about done. She's darker just there. Blend that out. So I just once I put that paint on the paper, I wet my brush again and dragged it around. Take that burnt umber down here and onto the knees on this leg. She needs darker, the bottoms of their legs are darker, unless they've got white markings on them. So I'm just going to darken that up a little bit, like that. All right, I'm going to do her eyes, and I'm going to go in with a little bit of grey, just onto the pupils. I'll do the brownie colour to the edges. I'll just get get some sienna and just pop in the edges. I can add some light back in towards the end. It's going to take that dark to the eyelashy bits, come out the sides there, and I'm going to leave that alone for a minute. Leave that alone. I'm going to add some blues onto her face, because where she's got the light on her face, the white, there are still shadows, like on the bridge of her nose down there. You can see shadow, and around here where her nose joins her muzzle, she's got a bit of shadow. Same with the little foal. Pop her little shadowy bits, and then I'll leave that alone for a minute, and I'll go back to my burnt umber. Get some more. Actually, I might go a bit of mahogany. Bit of mahogany, that's a lovely reddy brown. And I'm going to add that to the burnt umber that I've got. I'll pop that in here. Start to build up this little horse's leg. She's darker on this side of her leg. I think it's because you can see the light to the inside and underneath. She's very dark down that leg, like that. Again, take that mahogany colour around under there, around that side of her armpit on that side. Let's see the mahogany sort of colour there. All right, she's looking quite cute. I'm going to get a little bit of that Payne's grey to add to her mane. Like that. And her mane's sort of fluttering in the wind there like that. You can just see the edge of it. And her tail, I'll pop a little bit of that in there. Again, not a lot of water for the tail, just a little snippet. And I'm going to use this grey. I'm going to add a bit of brown to it, a bit of burnt umber, a bit of blue. Makes a nice grey. I'm going to take that down onto her legs, because they have very, very dark, almost black points. They call them points. The legs and the mane and the tail are the same colour. They call that, she's a bay, so she's got brown points or black points. So pop those in. Just a little bit darker there. I can actually pop a little bit of more forelock coming down that way. So I'll just put a couple more little ruffly bits. All right. I'm going to use feet are usually a pale colour, so I'm going to use a bit of yellow ochre on their feet. So a bit of yellow ochre for the hooves. I'll do that on both of them, like that. And now I can start on the foal. So I'm going to I'll go in with a bit more transparent sienna. I'll clean that little palette a bit. Grab some transparent sienna, pop that in there. Get a little bit of burnt umber, just to brown it off. And I'll do her little forelock. She's darker around her little eyes. She's darker in her ears. She's definitely darker under her little chest. So I'll keep that nice and diluted. Like that. And then down onto her little legs. Like that. Do the back legs as well. You can see I've only used a couple of colours. I've used two browns and a grey. That's it, or 3 colours. There you go, 2 browns and a grey to create these little horses. I'll do her tail dark, a bit darker. I'll grab a bit more burnt umber for that. Like that. Give her a little brown tail. I'll go a bit darker around her little eyes. And you can see her little forelock there. Tiny touch darker around the edge of her ears. Come in around her nose. Like that. Actually, I'm going to blend that out a little bit. Blend that out. So that, when I say that, I get a wet brush and just lift that off a little bit and drag it around just to spread that colour. I didn't quite like where I'd got that. Darken up the inside of that back leg. I've got to cut around her nose a little bit like that. Rightio. Oakley doke. So I'm now going to get a bit of pure mahogany. Take that down the inside shadowy areas. That little leg. I can actually I'll make a purpley shadowy colour too. A bit of a cooler shadowy colour. For these little guys, I'll just pop that into her eyes, pop a little bit around on her nose. I'm going to add some Indian red to her nose because she's got a bit of pink on her muzzle. So I'll just pop that on there like that. Same on the little bubba lubba. All right, I'm going to add some shadow colour. I'm going to make a shadow colour, which is just a purpley bluey grey. But I'm actually going to use blue. I'm just going to use indigo for the shadows. So I'll get a bit of indigo on my palette. I'll pop it where you can see it. Bit of indigo up here. Like that. I'm going to use that in the shadow areas on the mare and the foal, because indigo is a great shadow colour. And anywhere that's darker, I'm just going to do a wash of that over the top. The shadow comes right up there, like that. It's very diluted, as you can see, for now. I'm just sort of building up the shadows and the shadow areas. I can pop that indigo. See how dark that is? It's a beautiful colour. Into the ears. The very darkest part of the ears, like that. I'm even going to pop a little bit of that into the eye and into the nose. Like that. I can pop a bit of that onto the lower leg, because that's going to be all darker, because she's got her dark points. Take that down onto her hooves. Same on her little back feet. The foal's actually got quite light can pop the little dark bits in her eyes. And pop a little bit of shadow down this side. She's a little bit shadowed in there, like that. She's shadowed under there. Pop that down there to come down that leg as well, like that. And you can see that gives them a bit of contrast, which is really nice. I've got to darken up that part of her belly. Got to really darken up Mum's belly in there. There we go. Like that. And we've got it looking a little bit 3D. Now I'm going to do the grass underneath their little feet. So I'm just going to grab a bit of green and I'm going to pop that in where the indigo is. Pop a little bit of indigo, more indigo with that, just to darken that off. Make it a really dark green, add a little bit of brown to it, and pop that under their little feet, like that. That'll ground them a little bit. Sometimes it's fun just to have a simple painting. I'm not doing a background as such. Just a simple little mare and foal. Just to have a bit of fun. Like that. I'll pop a bit of pure green, which is this one's a sap green. Pop a bit of sap in there. Just to get a few different greens in there, in the ground, in the grass. Like that. Alright, so I'm going to grab a bit more burnt umber into that bottom part of her belly and under her chest. Come around the front of this leg a little bit. I'm going to blend that out, grab my brush, damp it, and the paint I've just put on the paper, move it around a little. Like that. Alright, might just let that dry for a second. The foal is quite pale, so I'm not going to do too much more to her. I think I'll leave the foal pretty much as is. Might go a little bit more transparent sienna. Just onto her face, above her eyes, anywhere that I can see that she has stronger detail. Like that. Come around here. Pop a bit more on there. I want her back area to sort of glow. She's got lovely sunshine on her. So I'll just make that a bit stronger there. A bit stronger down here on that shoulder. You see that muscle there. See the muscle coming down the front of her leg. That will dry back a slightly different colour, slightly. I can pop some little details on there around the foal's legs. I'm just going to get my damp brush, clean it, take all the moisture out of it, and I'm just going to drag that transparent sienna-y colour down, soften those edges. I don't want it quite such hard lines. I don't want it quite so hard, and that will dry back slightly lighter. I don't think I'm going to add a background. I might use a teeny tiny little bit. I've got a bit of gouache here, which is like a transparent watercolour. Opaque watercolour. I might just add a little bit of that into Mum's eyes, like that. Tiny little dot into the foal. A little bit onto her shoulder, just to get that light back there. Just a little. Just got a little bit of shining on her bot. So pop that on there, and I reckon we're not far from being done. It's a nice, simple, easy little horsey watercolour. The mare and foal. I'm going to clean my brush. I've just got a Add a tiny little bit more down her legs, darker down the foal's legs, just to give them a little bit more definition. There we go. Just a little bit. Drag that across her little chest, around there, like that. And I reckon I'm going to call that done. So I'm going to sign that down here in the bottom corner, and I am going to call that done. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see